Praying. I thought it'd be appropriate tonight to just say a prayer from one of our founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson. Would you bow your heads with me, please? Almighty God, you have given us this good land for our heritage. We humbly ask that you may always prove ourselves a people mindful of your favor and glad to do your will. Bless our land with honorable endeavor and learning and pure manners. Save us from violence, discord, and confusion, from pride and arrogance, and from every evil way. Defend our liberties and fashion into one united people the multitude brought here out of many nations and tongues. Endow with the spirit of wisdom those to whom in your name we entrust the authority of government, that there may be justice and peace at home, and that through obedience to your law we may show forth your praise among the nations on earth. In time of prosperity, fill our hearts with thankfulness. In the day of trouble, do not allow our trust in you to fail. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Stewart?
Here.
Mr. Tripp?
Here.
Mr. Richard Harris?
Here.
Ms. Freddie Harris? Here. Mr. Wiley?
Here.
Mr. Eaton?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Westcott?
Here.
All is present.
All right, we have a quorum. Council, you should have received minutes in your package. Hopefully you've all reviewed those. If there are no changes or comments about that, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
Okay. Does anybody care to second that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Council, with your permission, I would like to shuffle just a little bit here. Our department report this month is from the fire department, and I think you're all going to enjoy it, but one of our very valued members of the department has had a death in the family. Visitation is going on now. With your permission, I'd like to do the department head report now so that all of these guys you see can get out of here. This is our interim chief, Kirk Sloan, representing the department tonight.
You surprised me. I was going to be ready in about 5 minutes. I'm not sure I'm ready right now. No, you know,
You're always ready, Chief.
when Miss Collins told me it was our turn to do this, I have to admit I got a little nervous. When she said I only had to speak for an hour, I thought, well, I can do that. I can do that. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about the Russellville Fire Rescue 2016. So far this year, we've had 1,213 calls. We're not going to talk about all of those, but I would like to take a minute and share some of the more unique calls, some of the highlights of the last couple of months, and some of the banner moments of the Russellville Fire Department. We were requested to respond to an overturned tractor trailer leaking hazardous materials on Highway 27 north of Hector. We had a water rescue of 4 family members who were kayaking and paddleboarding in Lake Dardanelle. Storm came in and blew them off the bank over into the river channel. We had 7 structure fires in 8 days, including 2 working commercial fires. July 14th, the day that storm blew in the afternoon, we had 13 calls in 3.5 hours. We had 6 calls in 9 minutes. We have 4 units in town. On the medical side, we've had more than 200 calls in the last 2 months with a response time of less than 4 minutes 92% of the time. Response time is defined as that time between the time of call and on-scene time with the patient. The national standard for an ALS unit is 8 minutes 90% of the time. Our engine companies have worked 5 codes in the last 2 months with 3 successful resuscitations. That's amazing. We had an unstable motor vehicle accident off of Skyline Drive that required a technical patient extrication. We completed promotional testing with fantastic results. 21 candidates were posted to the promotional list by Civil Service. Van Horn Construction was awarded the bid for the construction of the new Central Fire Station. They broke ground on June 20th. We're supporting and assisting our city police with their Summer Youth Academy, teaching CPR and firefighting skills to the participants. We're hosting a 2-week hazardous materials technician class in August. We've got various departments across the state coming to attend. We recently hosted 3 instructors from Arkansas Children's Hospital that specialize in advanced pediatric patient assessment skills. They provided our members with an opportunity to learn and practice those skills using children's advanced high-fidelity SIMS mannequin. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's a mannequin that basically does everything but sit up and eat dinner with you. It responds to the input that they give it. If you do something right, it tells you you did it right. If you don't do it right, you don't have good results. So that was a very valuable class. We have a firefighter graduating from Arkansas Tech's paramedic program at the end of the year. But our most significant highlight here tonight are our 2 newest graduates of the Arkansas Fire Training Academy. Their graduating class consisted of firefighters from across the state of Arkansas. This is Ian Simpson, y'all stand, and Cody Wilcox. Now, thank you. I have to tell you that the Arkansas Fire Academy gives 2 awards to their graduating class. One is the academic award, it's for the highest GPA in the class, and the other is what's called the Rookie Award. It's voted on by his peers and also the instructors of the standards class. Ian Simpson brought home both of those awards. Now, when I contacted the Arkansas Fire Academy to gather a little information in preparation for tonight about this award, I want to tell you and I want to share with you the letter that they sent back to me regarding these 2 candidates. This is a letter from Lonnie Harrell. He's the standards coordinator for the Arkansas Fire Training Academy. Good afternoon. It would be great for you to recognize Mr. Simpson and Mr. Wilcox. The academic award is for the highest GPA through 7 tests. The Rookie Award is voted on by the students and instructor staff. It's for leadership, practical skills, overall ability on all aspects of the standards class. Mr. Simpson was by far the leader in votes, and Mr. Wilcox came in 2nd place on those votes. So we had 1 and 2. Having one student win both awards and the other coming in 2nd place shows the quality firefighters Russellville Fire Department is getting. It is obvious the dedication your fire department has in selecting and training firefighters to attend the Arkansas Fire Training Academy. Again, Ian Simpson, Cody Wilcox, we're proud of you. It's an exciting time for the city of Russellville and the Russellville Fire Department. We want to thank the citizens, the mayor, the city council for your support and your service. Thank you. Now, was that an hour?
Good job.
Very good. Thank you, Chief.
Felt like it. Good report.
that swiftwater rescue they had to do, Chief will be requisitioning a FX-21 Skeeter boat with a 250 Yamaha right, and you need a place up on Skyline to keep it. Is that what I heard? Okay. We'll work on that later. I understand if you guys need to go, council, if you're all right with it, let's let them get on to the visitation. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, men. Mr. McCoyne, boy, I hope you can follow that.
It's gonna be a tough act.
Yeah.
Get it to work. There we go. Finance report for June 2017. General fund. Let me back up for one. Try that again. Sorry. General fund revenues, $835,206, 1.22% above our year-to-date projections. Sales tax receipts were $672,824 of that. Franchise fees and permits for the June was $31,678. Expenditures, total expenditures were $954,354, 0.73% above our year-to-date projections. We had $104,617 year-to-date more expended than received. Street fund operations revenues were $135,744, 7% below their year-to-date projections. Sales tax receipts were $157,446. The new half-cent tax for El Paso is $44,583. Operation expenditures were $150,899, 0.59% above their year-to-date projections. We had no sales tax improvement expense, and we had a capital expense of $204,363. Economic development revenues were $51,449. $48,416 was the new sales tax, $3,030 for interest. Expenditures were $113,506 for the Depot Park and Garver. Capital assets revenues were $417,940 for June. $402,414 was the new sales tax, $3,867 for interest. Our expenditures were $708,173 for City Corp, Building R&M, the Aquatic Center, and the new fire station. Have any questions?
Yes.
All right.
Under the general fund balance, in June it was $353,000 and it's down to $233,000. Are we getting close to having to hit our $1 million emergency fund?
That's $233,000 above it right there.
Pardon?
We're $233,000 above. We haven't even touched it this year like we did last year, but we are close, yes.
And simply because I just don't understand it, the account that you call the El Paso Fund, loan, maybe? There's a word in it. Yes, loan. It went up that $44,000. What exactly is that money?
That's the half-cent sales tax that the state put into effect for streets and roads 2 years ago. And then the money is given back to the state in increments. And we used that first $2.5 million to build the El Paso corridor.
So
And
do
now
we
we're-
have $520,000 in that bank account right now?
That's correct. And I'll have a payment of $500,000 next month.
Okay, so it'll wipe it back out? and then
Right.
How much
Eh.
longer do we owe on that?
3 years.
3 more years?
And then we'll get a half-cent to do something with for the next 5 years. It's a 10-year tax.
That project, basically, we allocated half of that projected amount of revenue towards the El Paso project.
That's correct.
I think that satisfied me.
All right.
Mr. McCoy,
Well,
I do
a
have
little bit more. Go ahead. Can I have one more?
Absolutely, go ahead, Ms. Harris.
Okay, the June revenues were 835,000 compared to 864,000 this same period last year. Why?
Well, a portion of that would be because of the franchise fees going down, and then the other would be, we just didn't have as many sales,
Didn't have what?
as many retail sales in the city.
Retail sales in the city?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you,
Our
Jerry.
franchise fees, for your information, is we have been talking about franchise with Ritter and Internet. In 2014, the same 6 months, our franchise fees were $1,055,000. In 2015, they were $1,041,000. This year, they're $1,020,000. I attribute a lot of that to cell phone usage, direct TV, and satellite TV, because they don't pay franchise fees on those things.
When people cut the cord.
Yes,
We
we
lose franchise
lose.
Mr. McCoy, I do have a question for Ms. Harris is done. Year-to-date, we're up revenues, up expenditures, but the revenues are more than the expenditures. We expensed $105,000 more than we did received
Year-to-date, yes.
year-to-date. And then, a second ago, you said we have not dipped into below the 1 million threshold as we did last year. So, in your opinion, where we sit today, because the summer, through the middle of the summer is generally one of our downtowns, generally speaking. It seems to be like it picks up in the third quarter, middle or end of the third quarter. In your opinion, sitting where we are today compared to last year on revenues and so forth, are we in as good of a place as we were this time last year?
We're even.
Okay, fair enough.
That has to do with tech, though, coming back.
We're not down, in other words, so we're even. Okay. Thank you.
We're not going to have an increase like we'd like to have, but we'll.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Mayor's report, I've got a couple of little housekeeping deals to do. Go back to the way we've done things in the past. Typically, when we're going to make an appointment to a board or commission, I give you the names and then we think about it and vote on it the following month. Earlier this year, the council allowed us to add 2 new positions, additional positions to the historic district. And then our friend Gerald Hook notified me a couple of months ago that he would like to work his way off the commission. He agreed to stay until we could find a replacement. So I'm going to ask the council next month to consider approving Beverly Hooten. She's an assistant HR director at ATU. Just happened upon her a month or so ago. She's interested in history and antiques, and she's pretty well known in the community, and I think she will be very solid. Mr. Steve Hubbard works at Rideout. Most of you know him. He's a real colorful guy, but he also is, don't let his country boy act fool you. He's very smart, and he's got decades of experience in
Mayor?
local construction.
Herbert.
And then Miss Dixie McSpadden, full disclosure, I worked for them for a long time years ago. I remember when she moved here with Ed. She is a designer. She, I think, still has a real estate license, even though I don't think she's practiced since she moved here. One of the co-owners of Burris Incorporated, and she's terribly excited, and she's part of one of the longest tenured downtown supporting families in the city. So I'll get that on the agenda next month and let you guys consider it. Mr. Tripp?
Mayor, would it be possible, and of course I have a little bit of interest in saying this tonight, as it being my last meeting, is it possible to address that and go ahead and vote on those tonight?
You know, if it's the council, if the council's comfortable with it, that's, I think, completely okay, isn't it?
Mr. Mayor, I don't have any objection.
Okay? You
Add
wanna-
that as a late agenda item at the end, or now,
Or we could probably just do it now. Forward up to the mayor's report like we would something else. So,
I'll make a motion to approve all three of those names.
thank
Second.
you, Mr. Tripp.
Second.
You're even okay with Mr. Hubbard?
Oh, I'm good with Steve.
I thought so. If there's no other discussion,
I'm glad to see you're putting someone on there that knows the value of what things cost.
Yeah, there
he
you go.
knows it for sure. Any other discussion?
He's already jumped me.
All in favor of these three candidates signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed?
Yeah, I went in there the other
Good.
day.
All right, Mr. Brown,
Yes,
the deal we were talking about, do you want to talk about it?
yes, I would just bring up the fact that we had the city corp meeting here on Tuesday, and repeat the thing there about, we have the award, the national award for the best tasting water in the nation, and that give them a attaboy over at that place. They're doing a good job. But this was a new banner, new sign. I don't have enough made for everybody, but it just says award-winning water, state, regional, national. And they're gonna be putting it up over town. They're gonna see these signs. So, as long as it lasts and enjoy it, we have the best tasting water in the nation.
Amen.
That adds to our quality of life that we're so proud of around here.
In addition to that, at the same meeting, the mayor came in, surprised everybody with this award that we got from the Department of Commerce, and it was in reference to a 1.7 million grant that was given to the city of Russellville to make water infrastructure improvements. Okay, and what it's gonna be doing is it's gonna be related to the new construction in relation to the convention center, going out there, and it'll, well, Arkansas Tech area, north of there to the convention center, so it's, that money, I forgot what it was. Mayor, do you remember what the amount was? It was,
For the
6
total-
million.
Total project is.
Yeah,
is
something like that,
8
and so you're gonna be able to subtract this off there. It's a big savings, and when he walked in there with that piece of paper for that, grant saying, here you are, you got $1.7 million, everybody just smiled, so they were happy about that, but thank you.
That was brought to us by West Central Planning, you know. I'll go into all of that stuff. I'm sure they're going to do one of those cardboard check presentations. And hopefully all of the council can be there because you're the ones that voted years ago to continue our relationship with West Central. And then there was 2 or 3 people at City Corp and some of their contract engineers. This was money that came out of a disaster relief fund from 2008, never got spent, and they were wanting to get the money spent. Typical federal. Sorry, I'll leave that one alone. Let's say the turnaround time on this was incredibly short, considering that they wanted full engineering plans for the second phase of the application. And some of the guys over at City Corp did a really good job with that. But when you add that number with the $233,000 that Mac Hollis got for the soccer lights, and I think it's 400 and almost 500,000 that the FAA has decided that they're going to fund our taxiway extension deal. And you know, next month, maybe for the mayor's report, we should tally up because there's several other smaller grants that we've gotten. We've had a pretty good year this year. So that'll be enough about that. Freddie, do you want to introduce our guest or? Matt?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's on our agenda here. This is Mr. Matt Petro. He's with Retail Strategies from Birmingham, Alabama. He's been here and talked to us about a year ago, and you know, the timing maybe wasn't as good then, or we had other things to do, but it's very pertinent right now. We're going to let him talk to us about retail recruiting.
Absolutely.
Matt, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you all for having me, and Mayor, Council, thank you all for spending a few minutes with me this evening. I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible, but be as informative as I can be. And then after my presentation, I'll open it up for any questions that you guys have. So there we go. So obviously, first off, thank you. It's a privilege to be here again. I'm excited to be presenting what we do at Retail Strategies. But before I get into a whole lot of that, I first off want to just discuss why invest your resources into retail. And I couldn't have followed a better example from what Jerry just told you guys about your sales tax collections and what they're doing right now. When you're looking at retailers throughout the country, it's not just about sales taxes, but it's also about the quality of life that's being added to the community as well as the jobs that it's generating. So if you're looking at the slides, which after it gets off me, a typical Home Depot, Walmart's going to add about 40 million in sales, which equates to 300 jobs. And if at 2% of collections, which I believe yours is 1.5% at the municipal level, relates to about $800,000 in new retail sales tax being added to the community. But something as little as a Moe's Southwest Grill, a Five Guys, or something of that nature that average about $1 million is going to add about $15,000 to $20,000 to your sales tax collections. One of the key things, and you all see this because you have tech in town, is that the millennials are now the largest consumer group in the country. Millennials want their products and services quick and on their own time. In addition, one of the key things about millennials is that they don't move where there's a job. They move where they want to live, which means quality of life, retail, restaurants. Then they figure out where they're going to work from there. So as you continue to build this community into the great community that it is and is going to still become, you have to take into consideration that these younger people, the people that tech that you want to stay in Russellville, having the retail, having the restaurants, having the quality of life is essential. So Retail Strategies was started 5 years ago by two brokers in Birmingham, Alabama, identifying that municipalities needed a partner that didn't just provide a study, but provided the back-end support and implementation that generates value for the community. So currently today we have 28 team members. We have 180 plus years of retail real estate experience. And some of the logos that you see below, those aren't retailers we've located. Those are retailers that we have worked for in a retail real estate capacity before teaming up and joining Retail Strategies. All of our team revolves around the motto, if I say I will, I will. Anything that we promise you, we are going to deliver on. That is our key value. The goals of our partnership are pretty simple and straightforward. It takes a variety of ways to get there, but it's to increase the tax revenue within the community, to attract the desired businesses that create jobs and improve the overall quality of life within the community. But again, it's not about what we give to you, it's about what we build together, which is more retail opening their doors within the community that maximizes the opportunities in the market, maximizes the trips to Russellville. It does not cannibalize the current businesses that are here. We want to have more frequency of trips and keep people local versus driving an hour either way to do additional shopping. So our process begins with market analysis, taking the deepest dive into your data that's available, bringing our team of retail real estate professionals to the market to identify your strategic and underutilized real estate assets, and then taking the community's input and vision. So any vision project you've done, any economic development study you've done before, and then obviously your feedback to us on, hey, what do you want this community to be? What type of retail do you want to go after? What type of retail do you want to stay away from targeting for the community? We put those three things together, present the strategy to you. It's about a 75 to 100 page presentation. And then we begin proactively recruiting on your behalf. That's outbound phone calls and emails on a daily basis, as well as representing you nationwide at retail real estate conferences. What we are striving to do is have the results. And you can define results in several ways. Results can be new retail, and results can be an answer from a retailer that you've been desiring for the community that says yes or no. So even if it's a no, you're still getting that result and that information on what you need to do to attract that retailer in the future, if it is on your list of we must have this at some point. And then obviously retail real estate is an infinite process. There is no, final product end result. A great example is a year ago, if I would have told you that you needed a sporting goods store and Sports Authority was a great tenant, they're out of business today. So retail is constantly changing and your market's constantly changing. Since I was here a year ago, you've added a couple new retailers to the market. So as you adjust, we also have to adjust our strategy and our plan. So we're going to take you briefly through some of the components of the market analysis. Again, from a research perspective, it's completely understanding who the market is, what are the key data points, what makes you attractive. From the real estate perspective, it's what are the strategic real estate assets, what are the underutilized real estate assets within the community, and then community input, becoming invested in the community and your vision and what you want this community to be and what we need to protect within the community. So I'm going to take you through a couple of highlights. One of the key things, it's one of the, when I was here a year ago, we didn't even have this type of information, but it's called mobile data collection. Essentially, I can put a radius ring around the Walmart and tell you from the past 6 months where individuals have come from that shopped at that Walmart based upon their cell phones when they walk into that Walmart. So I can accurately define the trade area of Russellville by using geolocation technology. On the flip side, I can put a radius ring in Conway and identify people that are coming from here in Russellville to shop there. So there's a lot of applications for this data and for this information. But one of the key things is that defining the true trade area, and I've done a couple of drive time studies that I'll show you at the end, but I don't think it fully shows who you are as a community. And for a national retailer that's not located in the state of Arkansas to identify your true trade area, they're either going to have to come here or know somebody who's in this market that can accurately tell them. So this data collection, mobile data collection, allows us to show that it's a very finite tool that really can't be disputed. In addition, we're going to do a psychographic analysis, identifying the type of consumer that's in your market. What a psychographic analysis is demographic shorthand. It's taking multiple demographic variables and putting those together into different segmentations. So showing a retailer that the type of consumer they're desiring is within this trade area, is within this community. Gap analysis identifies the number of dollars leaving the market on an annual basis. We'll run one of those for your community. Your community is unique in that for 45 miles to your east, and I think it's 80 miles to your west, you're really the only game in town that has the retail outside of a Walmart and some tenants. So you have a very large trade area that you pull from. So looking at a gap analysis, it's going to be very difficult to find areas of leakage, which is what you typically think is what you need to attract a retailer. On the flip side of that coin, restaurants and other retail categories, you do want to see a surplus, because what you've identified is that you have a critical mass, a critical density of retail that other retailers want to be around. So one of the key things that a retailer's site criteria is going to have is co-tenancy, meaning we like to locate around XYZ tenant. They're located in Russellville, so they've already vetted the market for us, and it will make them easier to enter the market. It's less of a barrier to entry. We do a peer analysis for the community, identifying similar communities across the region that have the same makeup from population, daytime population, median household income, market supply, and GLA, which is gross leasable area, so it's the number of square feet of retail space within the community. So this gives us a roadmap of how are you doing compared to your peers, and I did a brief one that I'll show you at the end. It's not tremendously scientific. I don't want to hang my hat on it, but I'm going to show it to you at the end. It's going to give you a little look into what we can do for you and how you stack up. But the real estate analysis is the critical piece. The data is all dependent upon the piece of real estate that we run it from. So our job is to identify those strategic and underutilized real estate assets, looking at the market, identifying areas for development, redevelopment, where do we have space that's available for lease, who are the key brokers in the market, who are the key developers in the market, and contacting them to let them know what the city has hired us to do and how we can be of a huge resource to them. And then again, community input, just making sure we're aligned with everything that you want us to be out there doing and representing the community in a first-class way. So we take those components and we create a strategy for you. And these are actual strategies that we can use on your behalf to attract retail to the market. And essentially, it's a culmination of what I just told you. It's the highlights of all of the data. You don't want to see all the data. Trust me, it's about 300, 400 pages long. So we vet all of those opportunities for you and show them to you. One of the things that gets the most looks when we present it is the prospects that we're going after. So we look at category by category, which are the retailers, restaurants, et cetera, that we believe we can attract to your market, and then what's going on in that sector. Limited service restaurants averages about 3,000 square feet per restaurant. It's the fastest growing sector within retail right now, et cetera. So giving you some information behind just who we're going after, giving you more of the why. So if we have the privilege of working with you, it takes us about 90 days from start to finish to get this strategy completed and in place, and then we begin implementing it on your behalf. So that proactive recruitment, this would be your implementation team. Clay Craft would be your essentially lead guy. His job would be to call on brokers, developers, and retailers on your behalf. Hand in hand with him is a retail development person who is calling on retailers and brokers as well. So you have multiple people that are working on your community on a daily basis. In addition, we have a couple guys that are going to play critical roles. One of them is Joe Kacharski. Joe is a 30 plus years, he won't tell me how exactly long he's been in the retail real estate industry, but he has been the vice president of real estate at multiple national retailers. Before joining Retail Strategies, he was at Shopco, opening up Shopco Hometown, and before that, he was the primary site selector for Costco in the southeastern United States. He has done and opened 350 grocery stores across the country. Wade Robinette, our executive vice president, has been a real estate broker for 15 years before joining Retail Strategies. Has leased and managed millions of square feet of retail space. Now, Robert Jolly and Mead Silsby, our two owners, have been, again, brokers for 15 years apiece, working with retailers like Starbucks and others throughout the Southeast. And then you have Lacey Beasley, our president and COO, heavily involved in ICSC, which is the industry's leading source for information and conferences. If you've heard of ICSC Recon and ICSC Dallas, that's the organization that runs those. Then you have myself. I'm the Chief Development Officer. One of the key things about Retail Strategies is that the people that are out representing our company to communities who are potentially looking at our services, I'm involved in the implementation, meaning I'm here telling you what we're going to do, and you better bet that I'm going to be on these people to make sure we're doing it. But because I'm in sales, I'm not involved in the day-to-day. We have an entire separate team that takes over from there. And then we have our marketing department, which is headed by Laura Marinos, and she is first class. She will be in charge of putting all the marketing information together on behalf of the city. So one of the unique things that we'll do is go represent you at retail real estate conferences throughout the country. There are 3 coming up that, because of your position in this country, you can benefit from. The first is ICSC Texas, which covers really the southwest United States. It's in Dallas. That is October 8th and 9th. ICSC Chicago is October 15th and 16th, and ICSC Atlanta is November 2nd and 3rd. So all 3 of those, again, will be pretty regional to Russellville, and we can represent you to certain concepts that'll be there that are going to be looking to do deals within the state of Arkansas, and we can represent you there. We set meetings before the conference, and then we follow up with you afterwards to let you know how those went, what they said about the market, etc. I forgot that I put that slide in there. That would have been a whole lot easier for me to show you all the slide. All right, moving forward. So the marketing guide that we create for you is based upon the top 10 questions we're going to get when we approach a retailer or a developer about the market. It's not something that you're going to want to take to the chamber and try to lure other businesses. This is primarily retail focused. On the flip side of it is going to be an aerial of the community with all the major and regional national retailers identified. Again, because co-tenancy is specifically important, I can be talking to a retailer and say, we have this site on Main Street, which is next to Belk, which is next to TJ, which is next to other co-tenants that they like to see in the market. So that's the implementation team, and obviously what we hope to have is results and growth. You know, we're going to continuously update your strategy as the market changes, as retail changes, as retail announces new expansion plans. We're going to update the strategy according to that. We're going to keep you up to date on retail expansion and trends. We have a webinar almost every month with retail real estate professionals. We have one on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central Time, which will feature the editor-in-chief of Restaurant News, which is the prominent publication for restaurant news throughout the country. And in addition, one thing I haven't talked about is the local retailers that are here, and then the ones that are going to be here in the future. If I could drive down the street and point at a house and say that's going to be the next person that's going to be a chef of a great restaurant in Russellville, and I could walk up to the door and help him, I absolutely would. Those local entrepreneurs have to make themselves available to either the chamber or the city, but when they do that, we love to talk to them about what they're doing. We can tell them what side of the road they should be on. We can show them properties that we identify that may or may not fit their concept. So we aren't going to be their broker by any stretch of the imagination, but we will function as an extension of city staff to help them and assist them, and we'll run any research that they want. In addition, we become your research concierge. Any information that you guys want run, we'll run it from you from the point that you like it to be run, and we typically hand that over within a day. Our information is primary retail focused. We have a client in Florida that's been able to recruit 4 new businesses to town outside of retail using and leveraging our data. So briefly, I'm going to take you through a success story of how we recruited Dick's Sporting Goods to Moline, Illinois. I know Dick's is a good retailer that I think would fit this market, but during our market analysis phase, we identified that they had a gap for sporting goods. Most of their peer communities had a big box sporting goods retailer, and there was a key piece of real estate in town that could attract Dick's Sporting Goods to the market. So in the strategy, we identified those things, and we also identified with our client that they loved Dick's Sporting Goods and they would welcome them with open arms if they came to the market. So what we started doing was we contacted the mall manager, we contacted a broker in town, we ran research and analytics from that site, and a couple months or over the course of a year and a half, Dick's signed an LOI to open up in the mall in Moline, Illinois. Dick's averages 10+ million in sales and averages, I think, about 50 jobs per store. But the key thing here is that the same process we propose to take for the community here is the same process we took in Moline. The difference is the inputs are very different here. The variables are different. But again, the process is what leads you to the results. So what the broker said that did this deal in Moline is that he leases and represents properties throughout the region that Moline is around, but Moline gets to stand out because they partner with retail strategies. In addition, our contact, Ray, is giving us a lot of credit for closing this deal. We're not going to beat our chest and say we're the reason Dick's Sporting Goods went to Moline. Moline is a great market and Dick's should be in the market. But what we did was we made an environment so that this deal could take place, and we stayed on top of the deal because time kills all deals. So the more you can stay on top of it and keep pushing things forward, the more of an opportunity you're going to have. So let's take a second. I'm going to tell you about your community, then I'm going to open it up for questions. So again, this is a unique market. You're located essentially in the middle of two markets, about, again, 45 miles one side, 80 miles to the other. It's very difficult to define your trade area without spending a lot of time in the market. So I ran a 15-minute drive time, about 48,000 population in 2016, estimated 61,000 in 2021, which is a 6.19% growth. That's very good. In addition, your average age is lower than the national average by 2 or 3 years, which is very good because retailers want the millennial demographic. Again, they're the largest consumer group currently. From a 30-minute perspective, you're looking at 88,000, 92,000 in 2021, about a 5.29% growth. Again, that's very good. Average age is still slightly below the U.S. average, which again bodes well for the community. So what I did, again, I took a brief peer analysis for this market and identified 3 peers. 2 were in this state, and I think 1 was in the state of Mississippi. And it's a little difficult to see, but the population, daytime population, and household incomes are incredibly similar to Russellville's. And then I broke it out by category. So how many retailers you have from a specific category is in green, and how many retailers your peer averages is in that dark gray color. So when you're looking at this, you can see that you're down at least 1 clothing store, at least 3 full-service restaurants. But even when you see numbers like health and medicine that are 9 and 9, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have all the retailers. It could mean that you have 9 of one, and the other has 9, but there's 1 that's not here that should be here. So what this does, and again, moving forward to limited service restaurants and quick service restaurants, is give us a roadmap of retailers that have already shown a propensity to come to this market. One of the key questions we get is, are we built out? Is there opportunities for us? And this peer analysis shows that there are opportunities within this community to recruit new retail. So I've spoken for, I think I'm at 14 minutes, so I'm still going on my word. Key takeaways, last slide. We have a passion for real estate. All retail real estate decisions are based upon location. You've heard the old adage, location, location, location. National representation, we're going to take your brand, hopefully, to these 3 conferences in October, and then next year, starting with ICSC Recon in May, getting you out in front of investors, developers, and retailers that should be considering this market. One of the things that I always like to mention is that this is a marathon. It is in no way a sprint. Retail real estate transactions can take anywhere from 18 to 36 months, depending on the size of the deal. It doesn't mean we haven't had success within the first calendar year. We have, but from start to finish, these projects do take time. But we are here to be on your side, to be your biggest advocate in this industry. And with that, I will close and just say there's a lot of potential here in Russellville, and I hope that we can become an extension of your team to help bring these opportunities home for you. And with that, I thank you for your time, and I'll answer any questions that you guys have for me.
Thank you. Council, any questions?
I have several questions, just to, I guess, get a little bit more intelligent on this issue. Don't major retailers have their own business development plan where they're out already looking for communities that they can expand in without needing communities going after them?
The answer is, do they have a site criteria? Do they have a list? Do they outsource, their real estate into other firms? They absolutely do. A broker's job is to represent his or her client and locate them in the easiest possible spot. Meaning, if Russellville's a diamond in the rough, if you have a site that's perfect for retail that doesn't have a sign on it, or the sign's faded, or it's not available online, they're not going to come there. A broker or a retailer doesn't get more money by finding the diamond in the rough. So what we find in many cases, and what I see here in Russellville, is that you have good sites that aren't getting in front of every retailer that could be considering it. Right now, retail real estate is doing very well. Most brokers are inbound call oriented. I'm a broker and I get 50 emails a day about sites. So it's about how do you stand out? And we have relationships with these retailers, or when we call, we get them on the first ring and we're able to explain what we're doing. We get to explain, the site that we're calling on them about. Our job is to make their job easy. So it makes it easy for them to locate in Russellville over other markets. Because when I was doing your peer analysis, communities that have a 30,000 population in the city limits and a college and, that trade for about 88,000, there's probably 500 to 600 communities across the country that have that. So it's about how do you stand out? Because yes, they're looking for you, but they're looking for the easy ones. They're looking for the ones that are no-brainer deals, and that's what our job is to do, is to make it very much easy to do in this community.
Don't real estate developers do this already? I mean, if they got a piece of property that they want to develop, don't they already go out and kind of market this on their own?
They do. But what a developer can do is tie up a piece of land for 12 to 18 months to do their due diligence and really not have to put much down. So you have to, a developer could tie up a piece of land here, find another piece of land that's a better piece of land, and work that land and not work this one, or put a junior broker on this piece of land and put their power broker on this piece of land. So you just never know. Do they do this? Yes, they do this. I have several developers and brokers that I can give you as references that'll tell you the value we're adding. I was recently a shopping center owner in LaGrange, Georgia, owns a shopping center in Missouri, and without us soliciting it at all, she emailed a city manager in the state of Missouri where her shopping center is and says, you guys need to hire retail strategies because they're making my job easy to fill this center in LaGrange, Georgia.
You mentioned, well, let me before I get to that question. What about qualifications or certifications to do what you do? Is there a standard? Is there a certification that you would get to do what you do, or is it just on-the-job training and experience?
Well, so of our 28 or 29, I forget, we've added 2 people this month. Members of our team, 18 of us have a real estate license. The ones that are interacting with retailers on a daily basis have a retail real estate license. The 2 people we've hired this month, one has been a licensed broker for 7 years. The other has been in municipal government for 4 years. So the people on our team either have government experience or retail real estate experience.
But there's no certification for retail.
No, sir.
Strategies. Okay.
No, sir.
Okay, you mentioned that there is a real estate conference that's coming up. I'm sorry, not real estate, but a retail conference that's coming up soon.
Yes,
3
sir.
of them, you said. And you may have mentioned when they're coming up, but I'd like to know when they're coming up. And if we decide to use your firm, how fast would we have to move to get you to represent us at those conferences?
Absolutely. If they'll, there we go. So ICSC Texas, October 6th and 7th, Chicago, 19th and 11th of October, and then ICSC Southeast, which is in Atlanta, is the 2nd and 3rd. If you guys hired me today, or if you guys hired me October 5th, we could still get in front of retailers. We represent 110 communities across the country. We have communities that will be representing at all of those, so we will already have meetings set up with tenants and retailers and developers that should be considering Russellville. You know, we attend these conferences so that we can maintain and build our relationships within the industry. Typically at these conferences, you have 30 minutes with each retailer or with each developer, and then they're off to their next meeting. So you have to maximize their time. So what we do is we sit down with them when we talk about specific sites, and we ask them about communities, and then we follow up appropriately. The follow-up is really where the majority of, you know, interest and whatnot comes from. I'm sure you guys have attended conferences before. It's, you know, you shake a hand, and you're probably one of 20 or 30 hands that that person shakes, and it's a matter of you making sure they remember you and following up with information that you talked about to make it make you the expert. But again, the majority of retailers that we would be targeting for this community, we have relationships with.
I got 3 more questions.
Absolutely. I love them. They're great questions.
So how are your strategies received by local store owners and retail? Because it sounds like you're going after big box, you're going after franchises, you're going after, so how do the local store owners? Because we have a couple of local sporting goods stores.
Absolutely.
If you're going after Dick's, that's not going to make it. So have you got any feedback, or how does that work out?
Well, so we don't want to cannibalize sales. However, if we identify that there are, whether it's through analytics or simply through our discover process, identify that there are people leaving this community to go get goods and services outside of this community, then we want to try to fill that product or service gap. The reason why I talk about regional and national retailers is that they're the entities that stand up and say, I have X million dollars and I'm going to do X amount of stores, and here's where I'm trying to do those stores. The local entrepreneurs we want to work with and we want to help. We don't want to cannibalize any of them. But what we want to do more importantly is keep people local. Keep people from leaving Russellville to ever go to Conway or to any other community that they could get those goods and services from. So it's a process of working with our contacts at the city to identify what we don't need to recruit because we already have the local business that's covering this for us. More times than not, that local business specializes in a certain area. They have a certain niche that a big box retailer simply can't overcome. And that's why that entrepreneur is ultimately successful.
2 more questions.
Absolutely.
You mentioned that this is a marathon, not a sprint, multi-year. So if Russellville decided that we wanted to give this a shot and go in this direction for a year and just see how it pans out, it sounds like that's not a good strategy on our part.
Well, our contracts are year to year because I understand they have to be. You know, we can't bind you guys to a multi-year agreement. You know, within the first year, you're going to see, you know, more conversations happening with people, with retailers, not people that you want to have in this community than you've ever seen before. From those conversations, you're going to be able to identify very easily if things are trending in the right direction, if there's something around the corner, or if there's not.
So what you're saying is within a year, we would have had dialogue, I guess,
Absolutely.
that would indicate there's potential that might encourage us to continue with you and go on and go further.
You could potentially have dialogue within the first 2 weeks, depending on, you know, when we look at the market, there are certain opportunities where we go, no brainer, this is a retailer that needs to be in this market. And if we have a call set up with them, or if we're heading to their headquarters, we're certainly going to include you within those conversations. So, you know, it can be as quickly as 2 weeks. But again, the 90-day process is so that we can fully understand the market. But again, I know that you could tell me 2 retailers that you'd love to see here that, and more than likely 1 or 2 of them are going to fit.
Final question.
Absolutely.
How do you measure success? And how can we know that we're getting the most out of our money by hiring you? So how do we know we're being successful if we decide to go?
Certainly. So we do have benchmarks within our contracts. You know, we have to contact a certain amount of retailers, but you know, again, our model is a staff augmentation. So the city would designate one person as our main point of contact, and that person will talk to us more than likely 2 or 3, 4 times a month. You know, we can only report back when the retailer reports back to us or when the developer contacts us. Essentially, if I send a retailer a site He might say, yeah, give me 2 or 3 weeks and I'll get back with you on this. So I can't report to you every week about what's going on, but when we hear back from that retailer, we contact the main point of contact directly and say, hey, this is what XYZ retailer said. Are they coming to the market or are they not? Are they interested in this site, or do we need to find a different site within the community that they're going to be interested in? So how you measure success is really, we define that in our kickoff call, to be completely honest with you. We always ask the community, what is your win? Is your win only a retailer opening, or is your win, you know, the community's been requesting X retailer and we got the X retailer's real estate director on the phone and they give us an answer on why or why not they need to be in the, why or why not they want to be in the community. We consider those wins. We consider a win if we have a retailer who wasn't interested in the market, but we get them to be, and they come to the market and drive the market. Because if they come and drive the market, they want to be here. They may not find the site today, but they're now, it's on their radar and they're interested. So there's several ways you can define a win outside of new retail opening. However, obviously that's the ultimate goal. That's what generates the sales tax revenue for the community that makes this not a cost but an investment, and that's our job to make it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. They're great questions.
All right, who's next?
Well, let's talk about money. Jerry had proposed an appropriation in case we were to vote on this tonight for $45,000. Is that the first year?
The first year, I believe, is $40,000.
40,000?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's what my document said, but then this appropriation form said 45.
The
Okay.
reason I put on 45, I didn't know if maybe we wanted to go to the conferences
Oh, okay.
and represent ourselves and see what's going on.
Go.
Can I ask a question while you're thinking, Ms. Harris?
Well, go ahead.
So from going back to Mr. Harris's first question here, and then, you know, your answer to his question, basically, there are several to a few hundreds of Russellvilles across the United States. So I've often wondered what makes someone pick one location over the other. Is it a relationship, or is it, you know, something just they remembered, they've traveled through there themselves? And so I'm asking, is that what you're saying sets this apart, is that you're waving the flag promoting Russellville to stand us out differently than the other 300 or 400 Russellvilles?
That's correct. You know, Russellville is not an easy market to get to. You know, I had to fly into Little Rock and drive, you know, an hour and a half to get here. So it's off the beaten path, but you have the population here. You have a story that's really not going to show up on data. I mean, all real estate right now is done in front of a computer screen. You know, Hobby Lobby's located in Oklahoma City. If there's their real estate director or their research director sitting in front of their computer in Oklahoma City trying to identify where they want to go, and if they find Russellville and they Google, you know, retail sites in Russellville, how many are going to show up? Not all of the sites that you have available in this community. And that's our job, is to take the sites that aren't being properly marketed and get them in front of the people that need to see them. You know, we don't act in a brokerage capacity. If we identify interest and X broker is listing a property, then we're going to connect that retailer with that broker so that that deal can happen and stay on top of it. Obviously, we're going to provide, you know, research and all the things that we can do, but we keep our hands out of the transaction because there's not enough room for another entity getting a piece of the pie. You know, right now, developments and retailers enter markets on a very slim percentage right now. So we're fully funded by our contracting entity, and that is why retailers, developers, and brokers like working with us, is that we can show them opportunities, and they know that the opportunities we're showing them have been vetted by retail real estate professionals who have located retailers like them throughout the country.
Second and final question.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything that you offer to existing businesses to help them compete or help them to provide a better service to the community?
That mobile data study, any piece of research that we have, I'll run it for them any day of the week. All they got to do is call me, and y'all have my card. So, you know, call me and we'll get it to you. Any questions they have about retail trends, we'd be more than happy to hand them all the information that we have. We want to help them be successful because the best markets are markets that have a mix of local, national, and regional retailers. The reason, again, why we talk about national and regional is they're the ones who have signed up and said, we're going to do 20 stores this year. But, you know, for us, it's about having the national retailers that keep people here so that they continue to shop local. Because if you go to the grocer in town, there's a good chance you might go get your hair cut next to the grocer because that's where your consumer pattern is going to. Same thing for all other retail. If you go out to get X, you know, good, you might stop by the Starbucks or by the local coffee shop to get a cup of coffee. So, you know, it's about keeping those consumers in the market and from the surrounding areas, increasing the frequency to this community.
Thank you.
Absolutely, great question.
Anything else?
No, except Jerry did prepare an appropriation if we wanted to move forward with this and tonight. And the agreements, I guess, can be signed, whatever, later. I mean, all that paperwork. What exactly is this for, Jerry?
The reason I prepared the appropriation is if y'all wanted to go ahead and sign an agreement, which we'd have to make a resolution, Trey, is that correct?
Yes.
For the mayor and the city clerk to sign an agreement with Retail Strategies, and the appropriation was so we could pay the bill. And if we can get, you know, maybe we have to have a special call meeting, I don't know.
Okay.
So where would the funding for this come from? If we were-
The
Economic
second
development?
economic development.
And it currently has approximately $3.5 to $4 million.
4.3 million.
4.3 million.
Mr. Smith, can we pass this tonight and then get the resolution later, or what?
Yes, they're both separate, the appropriation ordinance and the resolution, so they can be passed separately, and they usually are.
So, we've had some discussions lately about staff position. Is this, if we go forward with this appropriation, is this in lieu of the staff position?
And this would include this, our staff position, working with these people.
I'm not ready to vote for this tonight.
This would be what, Miss Freddie?
Our staff position would be our contact person to work with them. Part of the duties.
You're talking about for the thing that you're wanting to pass?
Does anybody care to make a motion, or are we going to?
How much time did he say we have to go with?
So if they wanted to wait a couple of weeks, or, you know, get all our feet together and get all the paperwork together, how would that impact? The next ICSC is October?
Yes, sir. So obviously every extra day we have to prepare is another day that we can, you know, get ready. But if you guys postpone this 2 weeks, I mean, that doesn't derail us by any stretch of the imagination.
I would like to postpone it personally. I honestly have a problem with going this route and hiring developing another staff position and expanding the size of Russellville government. I really would like to flesh that out personally a little bit more before we jump in this thing, to make sure that we got a good handle on where we're going. So I would make a motion that we consider this further, maybe at the next council meeting. So, because we have time, the next council meeting's in August, so I would make a motion that we get the resolution together, appropriations together, and consider it at the next council meeting, and hopefully we'll have some more information on the staff position and where we're going with that. So that'd be my motion.
I have
Anybody
no-
want to second that? Or?
I'll second that.
Okay. Okay, the motion is to table this and investigate further and take it up at our next meeting, or you know, we could do a special call.
Or we're gonna have a special called council meeting here for too many more days anyway.
Okay.
Could be, yeah. So,
I recommend that, so.
everybody understand? Any questions?
Thank
All in
you.
favor of the motion to table?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Matt, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you all
Very
for your
good
time.
presentation. We
And,
appreciate it.
thank you very much. Any questions y'all have, you'll have my card. Feel free to call me or send me an email.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, committee reports, finance, Chairman Tripp.
Thank you, Mayor. We met last week and then again tonight prior to this meeting. A couple of things. I'll try to make this brief. On your council agenda sheet, you'll see a few items from last week's meeting, and I'll take items 1 through 5, which are line item transfers and appropriations that were voted on by the Finance Committee for presentation to the full council in form of a motion.
All right, council, the motion is for items 1 through 5 from last week, all at one time. Any questions on any of that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good. Mr. Tripp?
Next, discussion of approval to continue using current financial institution for city's financial accounts. Mr. McCoy presented that we had a 3-year agreement with interest rate not to be less than, but can fluctuate year to year if it goes higher. And that was voted on by the committee to present to the full council in form of a motion.
Okay, council, you heard the motion. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next, consideration of approval to reimburse $18,000 to the Boys Girls Club for a contract that was voted on by the committee to present to the full council in form of a motion.
Council, any questions on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Then this evening, prior to this meeting, we met and I'll group the 4 appropriations and line item transfers together that were voted on by the full committee to present to the council in form of a motion.
Council, the motion is for items 1 through 4 on tonight's finance agenda. Are there any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next, approval of reimbursement to Main Street Russellville for detailed services. Again, a contract for services between the city and that organization that was approved by the committee to present to the council in form of a motion.
Council, you heard the motion. Are there any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Last on our list, consideration of resolution authorizing the exchange of surplus personnel property with Arkansas Valley Communications for in-store credit, some police department old equipment that they're going to trade in and try to get credit for. And that was in form of a motion voted on by the committee to present to the full council.
Council, you heard the motion. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, that concludes our finance committee report for this month.
Mr. Chairman, if you'll allow me, I'd like to interject a little something here. First off, thank you very much for your stewardship of that committee for, let's see, that's 3 years total?
3.5.
We did a year, yeah, 3.5. We had a little discussion. As most of you saw today, Mr. Tripp is moving wards, which a little problem with the state statutes there. He's going to have to take a hiatus, which he's earned. A little break is nice, which is going to leave the council needing to replace Mr. Tripp for the balance of this term. We've had a little discussion, and I verified tonight that Mr. Larry Holman would be interested and willing to step in and serve the remainder of that term. He cannot run for re-election because he's already elected to become the county treasurer in January. Mr. Holman has done that before and served with distinction. He's an excellent, really he's an excellent anything you want to use him for. I know with Mr. Westcott, we allowed a period of time for other people to submit a letter of interest or some communication that they would like to be considered. But we're in campaign season, we're coming up to budget season, the time is a little short, and so the option is up to the council. How do you want to handle that? And so I'm going to ask Mr. Smith, can we do a late agenda item and add to the end of tonight's agenda and vote on that, or should we do it in a special call?
No, you can, if you want to address it now, you can, but you'll have to add it as a late agenda if you want, or if the
Good.
majority of the council wants to.
Mayor,
If y'all will, let's,
I would suggest we have a special called council meeting.
okay. Fine.
Is there a reason that we don't wanna handle it tonight?
Well, he's not officially resigned till the 25th, so you're jumping the gun.
Can we
If
Add
it
it
helps,
to-
if it helps on that, I can move it up. Yeah, I mean, really,
No.
if it matters,
So-
if it helps, I can move it
So
up.
No.
my question would be, can we make a motion pending the resignation of Mr. Tripp that we would recommend
We might could talk him out of it, Mr. Tripp.
I'm
I mean,
okay
really-
with a later, another, council meeting if we need to, but if we could do it tonight, then that would be good too.
And I'm okay.
You're okay with it?
I'm okay with making it effective. I can, if it
Yeah,
matters
that's
for
fine
Mr. Smith's
with me,
purposes,
too.
I can make it effective at the end of this meeting if it needs to be, that clean for the appointment.
Mayor, can we legally appoint someone to this position before the current member resignation is filed?
You said the magic word when you said legally. You're not talking to me, you're talking to Mr.
That's what I
Smith.
just said.
Yeah, okay.
What do you think, Mr. Smith? What's the rules?
I think if you say whoever you're going to be, his successor, his effective date is after, just tack it after Mark's, last effective date of being an alderman. Just have it start as his goes, when his expires, the person starts.
So we could make the decision tonight and just tell Mr. Holman, who's,
So I make a motion to add a late agenda item to,
and he'll have to go out Tuesday somewhere and
Get sworn in.
I think he's working every day at the courthouse already, so he could go to one of the circuit judges and get sworn.
my motion is to make a late agenda item to discuss this issue and make a
Okay.
recommendation.
Good, we'll think about it. Motion to consider a late agenda item.
Second.
There's a second. That'll take 6 votes, right?
No, it's just
Just 5?
majority, yeah.
Okay. All in favor of adding a late agenda item at the end of tonight's agenda to consider that? Appointing Larry Holman to fill the unexpired term of, let's see, that's Ward 1, Position 1?
Yes,
That's
sir.
correct.
All right. All in favor of the late agenda item, please say aye.
Uh,
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. So that would bring us, let's see, you were through with us, weren't you, Mr. Tripp?
Yes, sir.
Chairman Stuber, you got anything on your mind tonight?
Yes, Mayor, we have the Personnel Committee we're proposing, I think, 4 changes to the personnel policy. And briefly, they are prohibiting hazing, workplace violence. It will be required to be reported. We're recommending adding grandchildren to the bereavement leave policy. And we're recommending a 30-day time period for complaints to be filed. And that is an ordinance, so I would move we suspend the rules and read that one time by title only.
Okay, well, we will need a second on the motion
Second.
to suspend. Okay, the second, Mr. Harris. So right now, we're voting on the motion to suspend the rules. Any discussion on that? All in favor of suspending the rules, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You need to call a roll on that, or you can just do it? Okay, so now we're back to your main motion to let's see,
Well,
Motion.
Yeah.
need a motion to adopt now, which.
I need to write.
we're to Trey reading it,
Oh,
right?
yeah, read it.
Yeah.
Why don't you read that?
No.
I'll
Yeah.
think about what I'm doing.
Okay. An ordinance amending sections of the City of Russellville Personnel Policy Manual for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would amend ordinance number 2091 and would add or amend the following policies: a hazing policy, a workforce violence policy, bereavement leave policy, and a complaint reporting investigation procedure section into the current personnel policy manual of the City of Russellville.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second.
Discussion.
Discussion, go right ahead.
Okay. I think these are all good. I think there is some cleaning up in language in these that needs to be done. If we can include that as part of what we're going to vote on here.
What language?
Well, there are just some errors that have been written into some of the items that need to be wording and so on, spelling, things of that nature that,
Put it in there.
yeah. For instance, in the policy regarding the employee complaint form, we're talking about that the employee must report in the policy this to the supervisor within 30 working days of the occurrence. But it does not refer to use of the City of Russellville employee complaint form. We're asking that they do that in writing, but do it on the complaint form. So I'm saying that we need to include in that policy change that wording be put in there. And then in the second part of it, we say that in that policy that they must report it to their supervisor, but on the form, it doesn't mention supervisor at all. So that needs to be, those things need to be the same. And the word company is used on the complaint form. I don't think we're a company here, I think we're a city. So a couple of things like that need to be kind of cleaned up is all I'm saying. If we can do that with that understanding, I'm good. Can it be passed in that manner, Mr. Smith?
That's just, you can do that easily, Vanessa.
You could pass it with those corrections, yes.
Okay.
That one's a good one there.
Any other
Do we
discussion?
need a markup, or do we just make a motion pending the verbal discussion that Mr. Eaton has provided?
Well, there's not even been a,
Pardon me?
so you want, those are the changes? Those three?
Yeah, primarily. When, in the thing regarding complaint reporting and investigation, we say that this, if you'll go to the bullets under number 2, it says, the first bullet, an employee must report a complaint within 30 working days of the occurrence in writing. Well, we have said that we want them to use the complaint
This-
form that
he
we
want
come
to add
up
this?
with.
Yeah.
It needs to say in writing on the complaint form,
Yeah.
Okay.
not just a bar napkin that we turn in
Yeah.
to somebody. And then in the complaint form, in the policy, it says that they should report this to his or her immediate supervisor. But on the form, there's nothing there that says it bypasses the supervisor altogether. That it needs to be identified in there. And then on that form, in the very top where it says what the instructions are, it says, you will be notified of the company's intended action. It needs to be city's intended action.
It actually says your will be notified.
Yes,
that
I
your
know it
should
does.
be
The
you, so-
R needs to be X'd out, among other things. And I've got several other little things down there on number 4, provide any additional comments you wish the city to consider, not with the city to consider. And in number 2, please describe how the actions noted in your complaint about have been affected, blah, blah. I know that may be rather petty, but we're trying to get a new policy started here, and I think if we're asking people to, yeah. Yeah. Yes, and investigating on number 4. If we're gonna start a new policy, we need to have it consistent. That's all I'm saying.
And
Thank you.
Mr. Eaton, I appreciate your comments, and I apologize on behalf of the Personnel Committee that we didn't catch those when we reviewed this policy.
So the motion, if I understood it correctly, was to adopt pending
Those pencil
grammatical, typographical corrections as necessary, right?
Yes.
Right,
And that's what I thought
Right.
you said.
that's what I said.
All right, and a second. Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Mr. Stuber,
Yes,
Mr. Richard Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Eaton,
Yes.
Mr. Wiley,
Yes.
Ms. Freddie Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Mr. Westcott,
Yes.
and Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Motion carries.
that's all we have, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Stuber. That will bring us to new business, consideration of a discussion of signage.
Well, I think I asked Mr. Mayor that this be put on the agenda, and I'll start the conversation about this, I guess by asking a question. How many of us will say that smoking is a smart habit to start? And my second statement is this. My interest in this, though it may sound that way, is not, and I underline not, to try to tell people that they cannot smoke. My focus on this and why I brought this here was based on number 1, I guess, from the information that we received from Community Services Incorporated at our last meeting. It was presented at that, a number of things were presented to us at that time, and after listening and reading and reading about some of the things that they gave us, I felt compelled to, more than anything, raise an awareness of this sort of thing. And there are 3 people here with Community Services this evening, Ms. Hurst, Ms. Cumpy, and Ms. Lemp. And as we go through this, if you have questions, they might be able to answer something better than I. But my focus is, 1, to protect our kids and arm them with enough information about this particular issue and how it could affect them. And that's number 1. The second one is to improve the appearance of our city and the safety of its citizens. And the image that I see, and perhaps you do too, see creeping up on us is similar to what one sees as, I spoke with another alderman in regard to this. We see it in the slum areas of large cities that we visit. And we're almost approaching that from our points of view. And I used the term at our agenda meeting the other night, the word encroachment. And I've had in my lifetime the posters and window signs that I've become used to, and I've seen that to a greater extent since the federal regulations eliminated TV, magazine, and news media advertisements, that these things have crept up on a local level considerably into our store windows, on the sides of stores, even in street rights of way. And then, along with the kind of thing that I've seen for many years, after some of these regulations changed the way that the tobacco industry could advertise and so on, there came about tobacco stores. And I have seen those elsewhere, and now we have them in Russellville. And then we have the vapor generation that is upon us, and that is produced by the tobacco giants. And some of the devices and things associated with that are sitting on the counters in our convenience stores and discount stores around town, just at the right height for a child or a youth to have to look around or over those to pay for a package of gum or a snack or whatever that they might purchase there. And, you know, there is a great appeal for some of the nice sounding flavors and so on that those things are a part of. And then not only these stores and that sort of thing, recently we've seen a billboard or two pop up in town, one of which is in one of the most prominent areas of our city, right at the overpass over the railroad, almost in the very, very heart center of our city on East Main. And if that isn't enough, we've got electronic scrolling signs that are being employed around the city to bombard our youth and other people with the vapor cigarettes and devices. And considering litter, there are numerous studies that have established that cigarette butts are our greatest source of litter, not just in our city, but around the world. And with that in mind, it is directly related to contributing to pollution of our drinking water due to rainfall and runoff from our street intersections and rights of way, where cigarette butts are carried into the storm drains and ultimately into our streams and our lakes, all of which contain the contaminants and the chemicals that are so difficult to remove through filtering in our treatment facilities. And there's a couple of things from my perspective that we might consider as we give this more discussion and consideration in the future, and I hope that we do this. One is the possibility of doing a local survey through the community service folks here that would deal with children and their views on this subject and the issues that I have kind of related here this evening. Since we have repeatedly at this council over the several years discussed our interest in what we can do for our kids and our young families to make this a more oriented to family value community than what we have. And then second, I might suggest that we put into effect what I would call for as a voluntary posting of warning signs in businesses, the kind of warning signs like those that are on cigarette packaging. Not making a demand, just simply asking for some of the retailers to voluntarily post something of this in an effort to demonstrate a commitment to better health in our community. Again, it is about a more safe, clean, and healthy community that my interest in bringing this up is all about. So I've said a lot in that regard, and I hope we have some further discussion.
Council, anybody else want to weigh in?
Well, Mr. Eaton, what do you think the next step would be? Where would you go with this signage issue?
Well, I think we definitely need to see if the signage and some of the outlets, retail outlets and all, are within the limits that we have as far as how much area they can have in the way of signs of that nature in our city. I would hope that and think that our police officers would find it much more appropriate not to have things that obscure their ability to see in convenience stores, which are often subject to robberies and that sort of thing, that would make it more convenient for them to be able to drive by and see what is going on inside. And those are just a couple of ideas. Again, that we as a city would recommend a voluntary posting that I talked about, a first step.
Can I ask, I think you spoke to us before, right? When you talked about the signs by the doors and at kids' levels and stuff, does your group have a plan? Do y'all have ideas as to what you would like to see?
Don't all speak at once.
If you
We
would,
got a-
there's a microphone
right there, I
right
can
to your
understand.
left, if you will step over there, please.
I'm Barbara Cumpy. I was here last time with Autumn. Yes, we do have ideas and suggestions for cities to use. And as the Councilman Eaton said, it is a safety issue as well. But we'll be glad to work with the communities. We're not telling them they can't advertise at all. We're just suggesting that they limit it to a certain amount so that it is a safety issue. And it was very interesting, the presentation you had tonight about how you're wanting to market your city. And when you market your city and people come in and all they see is tobacco, vapor products, all of those signs, and mainly those are the billboards you have in your community, it doesn't present your city in a healthy manner. And that's what you're all about. You care about your citizens, and that's all we're saying with this is, let's look at what is out there because it is affecting our youth. And it's, we have seen the tobacco industry in the state of Arkansas spends about $114 million a year on advertising. And I can tell you, we've done studies in the Little Rock area. We've gone into the lower socioeconomic areas, and you cannot see inside the convenience stores because there is so much signage of the e-cigarettes, the vapor products, cigarettes. So it's an issue. Then you go into, and if you live in Little Rock, in the western part of Little Rock, which is the higher economic part of the city, there are absolutely no advertisements for tobacco products. And we have pictures we can show you. The only thing that's on the window is, we will not sell to anyone. We card for tobacco. So it's a difference. There's a difference, and they are focusing on some of the specific areas in your community. But if you are wanting your community to be seen as a healthy, lively, vibrant city, then let's look at what is being advertised in your city and what people see when they come in. If it's mostly tobacco advertising, then maybe that's something you need to look at. And we'll be glad to help and work with you on those issues. We do have suggestions for convenience stores of where to place their candies and things like that. Not right, and we saw a picture of one that has the tobacco products right here, and not even 6 inches below is all the M&Ms and all those kind of candies. So what do our children see? They see that as the social norm. Tobacco's okay because we advertise it in our city. We do it everywhere, so why should we not be affected by that advertising? And we know our youth are twice as susceptible to the advertising of the tobacco industry. I'm glad to answer any other questions. And just to give you my background, I am with the Arkansas Tobacco Control Coalition, and I have been worked 35 years with the American Heart Association and worked on the state legislation for tobacco control, our cigarette tax increase, the Clean Indoor Air Act for the state, and any other tobacco issues that we've had.
Is there any current legislation?
Not on the state level, because they leave it up to the local communities. But with the master settlement agreement, if you remember that, that's the tobacco, the money that came from the tobacco industry lawsuits that 48 states participated in. They cannot do advertising in your newspapers and on TV and things like that. So that's why they've gone to putting all the advertising on the stores themselves. So there's not any state legislation on that at this time.
Council, can I interject a little something here? As some of y'all know, there's people in my family that sometimes abuse tobacco. In spite of what y'all might have heard, I would tell anybody that asked, don't touch it, leave it alone, don't ever get started. So I 100% support the effort here. But it sounds like a great idea that needs to be a little more fleshed out in the interest of time and expediency. I would entertain a motion to refer this to one of our committees.
I would like to have this remain as an item, Mr. Mayor, for further discussion.
On the regular agenda or on,
Yes.
or on a committee agenda?
And by committee as well.
Mr. Eaton, could you get a copy of this that she's talking about that they want to propose?
I can do that.
And let us look at that?
Yes, I'll be happy to do that.
Okay, anybody else?
Anybody else have any more questions for any of these ladies that are here?
Of course, I can't help myself here, but because I hardly see how you could control what advertisements people put in their businesses, convenience stores and tobacco stores in their front window without, how much they can have in there if you don't control everybody else's. I don't know how you can single out one industry
That's
and
true,
control
Mr.
what
Stuber.
they put in their window.
That's true, Mr. Stuber. You're absolutely right. And we're hoping that the discussion takes the effect of appealing to a better side of their judgment on what is good for the city, good for the health of our children, and the 75% or so of us who do not use tobacco products.
Well,
it's not going to be legislated totally out. Don't expect that. But I think we start by having the discussion and bringing it to the forefront. So, thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you very much, and we'll continue to work on it.
Thank you,
Item
ladies.
two,
And Mr. Mayor, I'll get with you all if you all need to leave. Why, feel free to do so. We appreciate your patience. Thank you,
Item
Mr.
two.
Mayor.
Item 2, new business, consideration of a resolution to issue a special use permit.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion?
I'd like to say something here.
Please do so.
Okay, I went and toured Mr. Bubba's place last Thursday, I believe it was, and I want to tell you that I commend her because the place is clean, it's neat, and if I was going to start a business and I didn't want to go rent or invest in a building, I sure would look at something like she's got there, but it's nice, lady. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Want to call the roll?
Mr. Stuber,
Yes.
Mr. Wiley,
Yes.
Ms. Freddie Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Richard Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Tripp,
Yes.
Mr. Westcott,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Eaton.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Very well. Item 3, consideration of an ordinance regulating all City of Russellville, Arkansas right-of-ways.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for this to be read read one time by title only, short explanation for passage tonight, and then I will offer a couple of amendments in my adoption motion. Unless Mr.
Second.
Smith wants me to offer it now.
Nah, we can do it after.
All right. So we got a motion and a second to
Second.
suspend the rules. All in favor of the motion to suspend, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now, Mr. Tripp, you have some amendments you want to,
We'll do that
Oh.
in adoption.
you still need to read it.
Yeah,
don't
I
you?
still do.
All right.
An ordinance regulating all the,
Must be wanting to get out of here.
all the city of Russellville, Arkansas rights of way requiring a permit prior to cutting a city street, curb, ditch, or sidewalk, providing for a penalty, repealing ordinance number 1676, 1699, and 1894, and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would, one, consolidate a lot of those three ordinances into one. It would change the requirements so that boring would be required unless it was found to be not feasible, and then a street cut would be permitted. Defines out various terms for use in the ordinance. Requires a
Barkeep.
permit, requires a permit to be required before any type of boring or street permit, and require plans to be submitted to Public Works. It sets out a permitting process and also a standard, as you can see with the attachments there too. Sets up bonding requirements and a penalty should the ordinance not be followed.
Okay, so now I go back to him.
You can go back to
Yeah,
him
okay.
now.
Now,
We're
Mr.
good.
Tripp, you want to walk us
Motion
through
to
your
adopt
amendments?
with a couple changes, and that being, Mr. Eaton will let me know, please let me know if I leave one out. Page 3, 5G7, work shall be presented to the city, not permitted to the city prior.
Which,
5G7
okay,
on page 3.
all right. I got it.
Then,
What about on weekends? Emergency.
let's come back, let me make these few minor things, and we can come back to that.
All right, we're on page 3,
Okay.
item G7.
Got that one.
Okay, tell me again what your change is.
Shall be presented.
Yep. All right, where we're going now?
Page 6, section 6B. It shall be unlawful for a person to construct.
remove shall, add to.
Okay. Page 7, section 9, end of the second line, private persons developing and constructing.
Change construction to constructing. Is that
Three.
correct, Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Okay.
3 lines below that, parking lots shall not be constructed on public.
Any other?
Page 8, section 10, which is on page 7, but then H2, second line, and continues to work shall be in violation.
Everybody caught up on that one?
I don't know.
And then the last one, we think, page 10, section 13, A, second line, undercut for a distance greater than 24 inches.
Say that again, Mark.
Which one?
Section 13 on page 10, section A, the second line, undercut for a distance greater
Then.
than. And I made the motion for adoption tonight so that it
Not
gives
for,
Public Works
that's not
something
all.
to
Okay.
get in place to enforce, and it can still be amended, changed, tweaked along the way, but at least gives them something in place to work with.
I'll second it.
Kathy, you'll need to change the dates.
Change the dates. Okay. So your motion then was for adoption with the grammatical and typographical corrections noted.
With those very minor adjustments. And
Excellent. So you're not actually amending.
He's not changing.
Cool.
the
Good.
content.
Any other discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to, we've been working on this for a couple months, and last week.
$20 fine.
There's a fine right here.
$20 fine.
Right here.
You're what?
Let's see.
Last week in Ward 1, my ward, there was a project
Five.
started. And I believe when I asked Mr. Jones about it, Public Works didn't even know that the
Where's
project
the jar?
was going on. And then
And-
on Sunday, I received a phone call that the street had fallen in. And there was-
Pull your microphone up close. I want to be sure everybody hears that part.
I got a phone call on Sunday afternoon, said, "Hey, where are you?" I tried to call the mayor, didn't get him, so you're next on my list. And said that there was a hole in the street. So I left my wife, I just dropped her off at a local store. I left her there to go look at it, and sure enough.
Your poor little children in tow.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Okay.
yes. And there was a approximately 2x3 hole in the asphalt that had sank at least a foot, if not more.
Isn't that almost the same area as that place that somebody cut it without asking Mr. Jones for a permit?
Less
Is
than
that-
2 feet from the cut.
Wow.
And so Public Works got to go out on Sunday afternoon to go fill a hole. And that is the basis for this ordinance.
Mr. Jones, do you have people sitting around the yard over there on Sunday afternoons, or did we have to pay those guys extra for coming in and going and fixing this hole?
Would like to
Brown
be.
on that?
I think the Labor Department might want to weigh in on that one. All right, any other discussion? Mr. Tripp, I'm sorry, were you done?
No, I'm
before we
done,
started
I'm sorry,
fiddling around?
yes.
Well,
Anybody else?
Are we fixing to vote?
Yeah.
I don't say one thing. You know, this is a good ordinance, but it's gonna take a lot of effort on someone's part to administer this and enforce it. Because there's a whole lot in here. There's people doing these things all over town every day. And to issue these permits and to get, get these bonds and to check and make sure that these things are being done in accordance with this ordinance is gonna take a lot of effort. And my question is, have we got the people to put that effort into it? I mean, for instance, over here on this last page, on this exhibit page, that's a real good exhibit to leave that 12 inches minimum, to where you bridge over where the cut is. But unless someone visibly sees that and enforces it, it's not good.
That's, and obviously, our biggest problem is we can't inspect something if we don't know what's going on. And what's been happening in the city right now is there are cuts being made in our streets, and they're being cut. Whatever utility is opened up is being repaired, and then they're closing the street. And we don't, in many cases, don't find out about it until we start getting complaints about a bump in the street that we never even knew the street was opened up. One thing this ordinance does is it gives us a clear path to penalizing those entities that do that. And there's a requirement that they notify us when they're going to cut the street so that we can send an inspector out there to observe the street cut and observe the repair and make sure that they're making the repair in accordance with our detail. This ordinance doesn't change a whole lot as far as on the requirement end from what our other ordinances have, but I think there were 3 ordinances that have essentially been consolidated into this. It does give us a little bit more, avenues as far as penalties if they don't comply with it. It gives us the authority to go out and actually correct the situation and then bill, whoever the entity was that actually open cut the street. Our street cut permit, most of the people that want to do work in our right of way, they come in and get a permit. And they talk to us and we explain to them, particularly on drives, it's a lot of the utilities and actually some of the subcontractors to the utilities that aren't familiar with our ordinances. One of the things I'm planning on doing after y'all hopefully pass this evening and the mayor signs it is I'm going to send it out to the utilities with a cover letter, just putting them on notice that we are going to be more diligent about enforcing this ordinance and making sure that our streets are repaired properly. But no, we're willing to spend the effort to enforce this, Mr. Stuber.
You're taking out the flowable fill, though.
Well, yes, and the reason being, City Corporation, they've asked to not be required to do that, and they're actually the ones that proposed this alternative. And this is, to be honest with you, this is what we've done on our street cuts when we do pipe culverts. And the problem with the flowable fill is it is so hard to go back if the utility, like a water line, for example, has a leak. It's very difficult to go in there and remove that without damaging the line further to get access to it to repair it. And I personally feel this is a better alternative.
But that alternative, and there again, hindsight's 20/20, but if that alternative there would have been used down here on Main Street, we probably wouldn't have had the problems we had.
Call for the question.
Loaded.
Anything else, council? All right, I believe we've got a motion and a second. If you call the roll, ma'am.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
Ms. Freddie Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Stuber?
Yes.
Mr. Richard Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Westcott?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Eaton?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Mayor,
That
Do we
brings-
need an emergency clause
yeah.
on this motion?
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second for the emergency clause.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Eaton?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
Ms. Freddie Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Richard Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Stuber?
Yes.
Mr. Westcott?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
Nope, not yet.
Not
We
yet?
have a late agenda item, item 4. Well, does the council want to proceed about Mr. Larry Holman to replace,
Oh, forgot about that.
to finish Mr. Tripp's
Yeah,
term?
I like the idea of a special called council meeting.
Is that a motion?
Motion.
Do I hear a second to the motion to do a special called meeting for this?
Guess not.
I take it that motion fails for lack of a second. Do we want to do anything else, or?
Make a motion that we, appoint, what's his name, Mr.
Larry Holman?
What's
Larry Holman?
That's-
Pending, Mr. Tripp's resignation, on the 25th.
I second that if we can legally do that.
Mr. Westcott has seconded
Oh,
already.
okay, I'm sorry.
And
I
I
can't
believe
hear.
Mr. Smith, you'll tell us if we get out of line, right,
Right, as long as you make an appointment to be effective.
after Mr. Tripp. We can't split it? Make it-
By the
For
7th.
We're gonna go
clarification.
back and forth now.
Can I vote on this?
No.
Until the 25th, I guess.
Yeah, he can vote.
All right, so we've got a motion and a second to appoint Mr. Larry Holman of Russellville to fill Mr. Tripp's unexpired term beginning at the expiration of Mr. Tripp's term.
May I ask one question for clarification?
Please,
Does he live in that ward?
he does.
Okay.
And that is the 25th.
So he could start the 26th to go down and get himself sworn in if there's a judge that will swear him in.
I bet you there will be.
Just resolution or ordinance, it doesn't matter. Call the roll.
No, it's just
See what
a
everybody thinks.
motion.
Just a motion.
All in favor?
Aye. All in favor,
I'll-
any opposed?
I'll abstain just to be safe.
Yeah, and let me throw, any abstentions?
Now we got a motion to adjourn.
Now we got a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.